Oh, YouTube, what's good? My name is Vivid, and at the start of this season of the WBE, there were 16 coaches. There are only 2 that remain, and in a surprising twist of fate, they're the 2 people that everybody thought would make it to the finals. It's WOLFE GLICK and Zheng. This is going to be a star-studded match. I think this is going to be an absolute masterclass in VGC play. I think it's going to be an absolute masterclass in Draft League play. Let's just get into it and discuss the matchup and who we predict to win. Really quickly, before we talk about this matchup, I have a few announcements I want to make. The first is that I'm playing through Pokemon Crystal as a new live stream series on my channel here without ever taking a single point of damage. That series is happening every Wednesday and Saturday. It goes live at 4 p.m. MST. If you don't know what time that is, just do the conversion for your time zone. The second announcement is that if you are not already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. A lot of my views are coming from people who aren't subscribed, and it would mean the absolute most if you click that sub button. You do not want to miss this live stream series. And also, I've just been streaming a lot here on YouTube, something like 5 to 7 days a week. It's been dope. You should come hang out. And the final thing I want to say is that we have an absolutely fantastic t-shirt design in my Teespring shop right now. It will be the first link in the description down below. I'm not kidding. I think this is the best design we've come up with yet. It lists all the evolutions as Among Us crewmates, so it is an evolution Among Us crossover. If you are into either of those games, this is the shirt for you. It will not be up forever. Go grab it while you still can. Before I break down this matchup and give you my predictions, and before we listen to the analyses of the special guest that I brought on, I would like to ask you, the audience, who do you think is going to win? Wolf or Cybertron? Why do you think one is going to win over the other? How do you think this matchup's going to go? Let me know all of your predictions, all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. So I think a good place to start breaking down this matchup is by talking about the teams that each coach has access to. And then after that, we'll sort of like move to the statistics screen and talk about more in depth and like, what if this comes, where does this threat rank in sort of threat assessment? But yeah. So Wolf has access to Rillaboom, Gmax, Arcanine, Dracovish, Drifblim, Escavalier, Scrafty, Jolteon, Musharna, Wigglytuff, Piloswine, and Diglett. Aaron has access to Tox, Gmax, Excadrill, Primarina, Whimsicott, Gigalith, Noivern, Decidueye, Stoutland, Bronzer, Seaking, Unpheasant. If I'm looking at this matchup in a vacuum without knowing either of the coaches, I think Wolf has the better team in this match. I think Wolf probably has matchup here, but let's move on over to the statistics screen and we'll talk about how each individual Pokemon, or how the Pokemon I predict to come at least, sort of fit in. So this is the matchup screen. You can find this information on the Draft League website. If you don't know the Draft League website, it's like draft-league.nl. I'll leave a link in the description down below. You should definitely check it out. It's the best place to keep up with all of the current leagues that are running on this website. So definitely the WBE doubles and singles leagues are running, and you can go find lots of neat statistics there. Okay. So if we're looking at this, once again, I feel like we've said this a lot throughout the season, especially during like these playoff predictions. Aaron is really comfortable bringing the same Pokemon week to week and devising a game plan and strategy around those Pokemon. He did sort of break out of this mold. He actually brought Stoutland last week against Dan. But I think this is a weakness, but I also think it is just proven to be Aaron's strength. He is really consistent with the Pokemon that he knows. I don't know, he knows how to use them very well. He knows how to arrange them on his team. Like, he knows how to compose them in a way where they cover for each other's weaknesses in a specific matchup. I think it's a massive strength of his playstyle. I think it's a massive strength. I think it really shows his consistency. But it is worth noting that Aaron has a lot more to prep for here than Wolf does. I don't think that is a super hot take. Wolf has just brought his Pokemon, I think, much more evenly, except for the bottom 3, and even the bottom 2 he's brought a reasonable amount of times. It's weird to say that Wolf has brought Diglett more than Aaron has brought Stoutland, right? Like, that's a weird thing to say. Anyways, okay, so if we're breaking this down and we're looking at individual threats, I think Rillaboom is really solid here. He's like, Wolf's brought a lot. It has a good KD record. Like, it's picked up 9 KOs throughout the season. He obviously knows what to do with it. I'm sure it would be some, like, honestly, like, choice band Rillaboom looks kind of insane here. Aaron doesn't have fantastic defensive checks to it. Like, I think his best answer is probably Noivern, right? I think Noivern is just the best thing that Aaron has going for him. Aaron doesn't have a fire type anymore, which also means Escavalier is a threatening Pokemon. Escavalier in Trick Room is especially threatening because Aaron has Gigalith, right? He has Gigalith for Trick Room play, and he's shown that he can bring Iron Ball Primarina. He did that last week against Dan. It was really dope. It was really good tech. I don't think he has a Pokemon that is good against the Escavalier that he can give an Iron Ball to underspeed it and that make a big difference. Like, Prim isn't going to underspeed Escavalier, and even if it did, it's not going to be doing a ton of damage to Scav. Gigalith one, it doesn't underspeed a Scavalier, and two, it's not going to take max steel spikes very well. I just like, if I'm looking at this matchup from just my perspective, not being nearly as good as either of these players, I think that Rillaboom looks insane. Rillaboom also plays to a Trick Room game plan very well because Rillaboom just has Grassy Glide, so it's going to out prioritize things anyways. I think a Scavalier looks nuts. I think Jolteon looks really good against some of Aaron's pieces because the speed tier is really good. You can do a lot of things with Jolteon before Aaron presumably can actually set up his speed control maybe. Yeah, I don't know. If I'm looking at this matchup, I really feel like Wolf has matchup here. But I think Aaron's consistency is so immaculate that it's really hard for me to say Aaron is not going to win this week. That's a hard thing for me to say. Every time I've voted against Aaron, or every time I thought that Aaron had a poor matchup, he's either come out on top and had a really smart game plan and just like edged out the win kind of seamlessly, or he's absolutely decimated. Aaron has only lost one game during the normal season. He's only, or not one, sorry, not one game. He's only lost one match during the entire regular season and playoffs combined. And it was because he lost to Versus. Versus was doing like kind of ally switch shenanigans. I think maybe there's an argument that Wolf could try a strategy like that. Like, I'm pretty sure Musharna gets ally switch. You could set up Trick Room and then start doing ally switch things. But just in general, I think this matchup is going to be really hard for Aaron to get ahead in. I'm having a hard time seeing what specific pieces he could bring that, one, could stop Trick Room from going up reliably. Like, if you just bring Mental Herb Musharna, I don't think there's a lot that can be done here. Obviously, Bronzor is a decent piece inside Trick Room, but it doesn't really contribute to an offensive game plan. It contributes defensively somewhat. It can also reverse Trick Room, which is worth noting, but I don't know. I'm having a really hard time with this. I think this matchup, one, again, I've said this a lot, but it's against some of the greatest players, not only just in this league, but in the world in terms of VGC, right? Like, these are some of the best VGC players in the world. They've also proven to be really excellent top tier draft league players. All right, so I've talked about threats from Wolfson here. I'm isolating that I think Rillaboom is very good. I think it's very good against Aaron's team in general. I think it's very good in a matchup where speed control matters. And I also think it's very good in a game where you want to set up Trick Room because it just has that priority. I think that a Scavalier is particularly good just because Aaron doesn't have a fantastic answer to it. Without a fire type stab move, it's going to be eating sort of non-stab boosted fire hits with an assault vest reasonably well, I would guess. And also, Aaron just doesn't have fantastic resistances to it. Aaron has a hard time checking just the dual stab combination of a Scavalier. Legitimately, the best thing Aaron has to check a Scavalier is Noivern. And Noivern is also a reasonable check to Rillaboom, but that puts a lot of defensive pressure on Noivern that I don't think is fantastic for it. Like, don't get me wrong, I think Noivern looks good in this matchup, but it has a lot of roles to fill, and that can put a lot of pressure on a single Pokemon. Other than Rillaboom and a Scavalier, I think that Jolteon looks good, and maybe good is a stretch. It looks decent. It's good against Prim here, and it hits most things for strong neutral hits. I think Musharna 100% is coming just because Wolf needs a Trick Room setter, and also he needs a Trick Room abuser. Musharna is good at both of those things. Other than that, I have a hard time kind of figuring out what Pokemon Wolf would bring. Let's talk about things from Aaron's side here and sort of assess Aaron's threats. So I think Tox is a pretty good Pokemon in this matchup. Aaron is really comfortable with it. It's good against a lot of Wolf's pieces. Like, it's fine against Rillaboom. It's okay against Dracovish. It's fine against Driftblim. I'm assuming it hits a Scavalier for reasonable neutral damage here. It's not particularly great against Jolteon because Jolteon can just be Volt Absorb and then you're not doing any damage with your main damage output move, which is Overdrive. And obviously it's horrible against Piloswine and Diglett. I also want to say from Wolfson, Piloswine and Diglett don't look like awful brings this week just because Piloswine is incredibly bulky with an Eviolite. So Piloswine would be really good against Tox. It would be really good against Excadrill. It would be really good against Gigalith. It would be probably pretty good against Noivern. Like, I'm talking myself into it. I think Piloswine actually comes this week. I think Piloswine comes and I think it hits the field. It's also not awful inside Trick Room, which is worth noting. Okay, I've convinced myself that Piloswine is coming, but now we're going back to Aaron's side. Excadrill has been one of Aaron's main threats this entire season. Excadrill and Primarina Primarina. And I think the problem here is that both of these Pokemon are just not fantastic against Rillaboom, right? I think Aaron is going to have to lean heavily on the Pokemon that are good against Rillaboom and that are good against Escavalier to sort of open up a hole for these two Pokemon to be as dominant as they have been. Like if you look at the KO ratios here, Primarina has a KD of 26 and 8. That means it is plus 22. No, I'm sorry, I did that math wrong. It is plus 18, which is insane. Excadrill is 21 and 11, which means it's plus 10. These are really positive records. This might be the kill leader in the entire league. I'm not sure. Either way, I think Primarina and Excadrill are going to have a hard time being as offensive as they have been just because Rillaboom is here. Now, Aaron might bring some really sick tech like Prankster Misty Terrain on Whimsicott just to override Rillaboom's terrain and make sure that it doesn't have priority access and also it just doesn't hit as hard. I think that could be very good. If you do that, then I think that Excadrill gets a few more points here because Rillaboom doesn't actually hit Excadrill for super effective. It just hits it for neutral, but Grassy Terrain boosted neutral Grassy Glides hit Excadrill for a ton of damage. If Excadrill can start setting up defense boosts without priority moves hitting it, I think that Aaron could be in a good spot though. So maybe that is a route he takes, is like taking away the priority aspect of Rillaboom. Other than that, like I said, I think Noivern is a really strong piece here. Noivern is reasonably good against Rillaboom. It's good against Dracovish, being able to outpace it and OHKO it with Dragon Stabs. It's good against Escavalier just because it resists the Bug Stab, doesn't resist the Steel Stab on Fort, but also I think, I could be wrong, I think this is Aaron's only piece with fire coverage, and you have to have some type of fire stab to hit Escavalier with. I don't think he has anything that has Mystic Fire, at least not that I'm seeing. I don't think he has anything else that gets Flamethrower or Fire Blast. I legitimately think it's just Noivern. Gigalith might get Heat Crash. Let me look that up really quick. If Gigalith gets Heat Crash, then that's a reasonable bring. Update, Gigalith does not get Heat Crash, so Noivern truly is Aaron's only way of really breaking through Escavalier. Like, don't get me wrong, Escavalier is not a defensive Titan on the special end, but with an Assault Vest, you can sure that up. Also, how much do you even really have to care about your special defense? Escavalier can lower special attacks with Max Flutterby. Oh man, I think Escavalier is going to be a nightmare here. I really think it's going to be a nightmare. Outside of Primarina and Excadrill and Tox, which again, I don't think Prim and X are fantastic. I think that Aaron is going to find a way to make them much better. Primarina, I think even without Grassy Terrain is not fantastic against Rillaboom. It's going to take a ton of damage. The Excadrill without Grassy Terrain, if Aaron does do something like Prankster Misty Terrain, I think the Excadrill could really shine because you can get defense boosts. Noivern, I think, has to come. Okay, so let's just start breaking down the teams, like what I think is going to come, because I really don't see anything else on Aaron's team that is a super threat, right? Like Bronzor can come to reset Trick Room if you want, but that's kind of a wasted spot this week in terms of like actual matchup. I guess Bronzor is okay against Escav. It gets hit neutral from Max Flutterby. Decidueye here doesn't look fantastic. Its stabs are mediocre at best. The ghost type stab, I guess the ghost type stab here hits a lot of things neutrally, but the grass type doesn't get you very far, considering that it's only really good against Piloswine and Diglett. I don't see Decidueye being an insane threat here. All right, we've kind of talked about which Pokemon are important. I'm going to talk about what I think the actual team compositions are going to be. Starting with Wolf, I think Rillaboom is a shoo-in. It looks really good against Aaron's entire team. Without Aaron having some form of terrain control, which I think he has to kind of bake into his team now that I'm looking at it, Rillaboom just doesn't have fantastic answers here. Just Choice Band Grassy Glides will tear through this team. Aaron, like, okay, so Tox resists, right? But it's really physically frail. Whimsicott resists, but again, not a bulky Pokemon. Gigalith, Primarina, both weak. Excadrill is going to get hit super hard neutrally. Noivern is the best resist here because it resists at 4x. Noivern is also okay on the bulk. I think it's like 80 HP and 85 defense or something. And those numbers might be swapped. Noivern looks like a really good check to Rillaboom. Rillaboom can also just hit it with neutral hits though, if you're predicting a Noivern switch in or if Noivern's just on the field. An AV Rillaboom would probably line up really well against Noivern's stabs here, like would line up really well against Hurricane. You could probably love a Hurricane. I don't know. Noivern might be Aaron's best max target this week now that I'm looking at it. Anyways, moving on. Rillaboom gets knockoff, so it's pretty good against the Decidueye here, and then the rest of this is just like, I don't think Unpheasant is a real Pokemon that you can bring, not in the finals, and Bronzor here I think is like a reasonable defensive piece, but Rillaboom looks insane. I think Escavalier looks insane. I think Musharna comes to pair with Escavalier. Outside of that, I've talked myself into Piloswine. I think Piloswine looks nuts this week. The only Pokemon it's actively bad against, I think, is Primarina, right? Like, I guess it's not fantastic against a Whimsicott with grass type attacks, but Piloswine is really bulky with an Eviolite. Whimsicott's not the most offensive thing in the world. Piloswine's really good against Noivern, which is, again, a good reason to bring it. It's okay against Decidueye. I'm assuming you take 1 grass hit, maybe 2 if EV'd properly, but you also get super effective ice type attacks off. Yeah, Piloswine is nuts. Piloswine, I think, is good against all of the things that you need it to be good against this week. Also, Piloswine is actually nuts against Toxtricity. So Piloswine, Escavalier, Musharna, Rillaboom. Outside of that, I could see, I don't know, maybe a Drifblim to match Tailwind for Tailwind. I don't think that's super likely. I think Jolteon is very likely to have a piece that doesn't rely on sort of a Trick Room mode. Jolteon plus Rillaboom just makes for a really offensive lead, and Wolf has shown that he's like kind of okay with doing tricksy things with Jolteon. He's okay using Jolteon to set screens. He's okay just using Jolteon as a turn 1 max target to blow something back. I think Jolteon probably comes here. Outside of that, I would predict either Scrafty or Arcanine. I think Intimidate makes a lot of sense against Aaron's team, and I think it's better than most of his other pieces. I don't think Dracovish comes this week. I could be very wrong here, but Dracovish doesn't look fantastic against a team with really, really good speed control, and also against a team that could sort of have a Primarina set to underspeed Dracovish and Trick Room, right? So I think Dracovish stays on the sideline. I would guess Rillaboom, Escavalier, Jolteon, Musharna, Piloswine, and then either Scrafty or Arcanine, because I think Intimidate is going to be very good here. Arcanine, let me break this down a little bit. Arcanine is really good against a few of these pieces. It hits Excadrill super effectively, and you get to intimidate it, which is nice. I guess Scrafty does the same thing, though. It hits it super effective. It's probably Scrafty, right? I feel like Fire type is a bit more of a weakness here. Like Fire, it's not good against Excadrill. It's not good against Primarina. It's not fantastic against Gigalith here. It's not good against Seaking. That's not a real sentence. It's not fantastic against Noivern. Scrafty's not good against Noivern either, but Scrafty is pretty reasonable against Excadrill. I guess it's still not good against Primarina. Primarina is a really good Pokemon, and this is the name of the game. Primarina is a good Pokemon. It might just be Arcanine, actually. I think you have to worry more about the Fairy type attacks than you do the Water ones. So it might be Arcanine. It might really be Arcanine, which is weird to say. All right, Arcanine also gets Will-O-Wisp, which is insane. So yeah, okay. I would say Rillaboom, Arcanine, Escavalier, Jolteon, Musharna, Piloswine are the 6 Wolf Brings, and I think that's a really hard squad to prep against for Aaron. So 100% Noivern's a lock. I think Whimsicott is a lock. I think that Aaron might bring something kind of tricksy like Prankster Misty Terrain, just because Rillaboom having indefinite terrain control looks really bad for Aaron's team. I think the Excadrill is a lock. I think the Primarina is a lock. So Noivern, Whim, Prim, X. I don't know if Gigalith is super necessary here, but it does look enticing because Wolf doesn't have weather control. So having a weather mode makes some sense here, but this just loses to Trick Room. Something I'm kind of realizing right now is that Bronzor could actually come and just have imprison Trick Room and try to imprison the Musharna out of using Trick Room. I think that could be a very viable strategy for Aaron to abuse. And that actually, okay, all right. That actually lends me to having a little bit more faith in the Bronzor bring here, because Aaron's team looks really, really bad against Wolf's Trick Room mode. It just does. So if we can actually stop Wolf from setting up Trick Room, which Imprison is the best way of doing that, because if you taunt from Noivern, or sorry, yeah, taunt from Noivern or taunt from Whimsicott onto the Musharna and it holds a Mental Herb, then you're just, that doesn't do anything. That doesn't change the math in your favor. If you imprison Trick Room with Bronzor, I think it's actually pretty solid. I don't know what you would lead, though, which is the problem. I don't know what you would lead aside Bronzor that makes it viable here. I guess Excadrill is okay. I don't know. If you lead Whimsicott, Bronzong, you just have 2 utility pieces and no real offense. Noivern Bronzong could be solid, actually. Now that I'm looking at it, Noivern Bronzong could be really solid. You max the Noivern, max Airstream into Rillaboom. Okay, all right, I'm talking myself into it. Bronzor, I think, is coming. I think it has to, just because I don't think you play well against Trick Room otherwise. So Bronzor, Noivern, Primarina, Excadrill. I think these are a lock. I still want to believe the Whimsicott is a lock. I think it's proven to be Aaron's like favorite Pokemon throughout this season. And then it's really a toss-up between Gigalith and Toxtricity. I think Gigalith does a little bit more for the team in terms of providing sand for Excadrill, but outside of that, if you just have Tailwind with Whimsicott, Tox I think does more offensively. Toxtricity, it's hitting Rillaboom hard, and it hits almost everything for solid neutral damage. The only thing that it's really bad against is Piloswine. So, and I mean, Piloswine's pretty good against Gigalith too. All right. I think Toxtricity, Excadrill, Primarina, Whimsicott, Noivern, and Bronzor. I think those are the 6 Aaron brings. And I don't know, this matchup is going to be insane. We've talked about the statistics. We've talked about what I think is coming. Now I'm just going to make my predictions. Okay, so after actually looking at this matchup from an analytical standpoint and trying to break it down, I've kind of talked myself into giving Aaron more percentage points here. I really think that Wolf has the better team here, but I feel like Aaron also has the tools to make something really special happen. I think Aaron has proven to be consistent. I think that he has proven to make the best play on any given turn. He really thinks through his turns, and it almost never costs him negatively, but it almost always benefits him. Wolf during the league has proven to be, I think, a little bit more rash, like a little bit more hasty to make plays, which has cost him games. And he's also just been a little bit less consistent than Aaron. I don't want to like talk about outside life circumstances too much. I know Wolf has been busy. I don't know if Aaron has been busy as well. I just think that Aaron has played a cleaner season than Wolf. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. Wolf is fantastic. Miles better than me as a player. Miles better than me at breaking down and analyzing matchups in Pokemon. But I think Aaron has played a cleaner season, so it's hard for me to say that just because Wolf has matchup here, that gives him more percentage points to win. If I had to make a gut shot call right now, if you told me that my life was on the line and I couldn't just call it a 50-50, because honestly, I think this matchup, like I've said this in the past, I think this is the closest to a 50-50 that I've seen, and not just because of the teams. If it's just the teams in a vacuum, I think Wolf is probably like 60 to 70% favored, but because of the players, because of the play skill, because of how the season has gone down, even though Wolf has proven to be a nightmare in the playoffs and a nightmare when he is trying his absolute best, I think that it's the closest to a 50-50 that I can see. And also I kind of talked myself into some really smart tech that Aaron could bring to maybe kind of pick apart Wolf's team. Like I actually believe a lead of Bronzor Noivern here looks really solid. I don't think Wolf has a good response to that. I think Bronzor Noivern covers a lot of the bases. Okay, so I have a gut shot feeling here. I know I've been wrong on a lot of my predictions. I think I've only gotten 40% of them correct if you count all the predictions I made. But yeah, I really think that Aaron can win. And I think Aaron can win because I think he is really good at adjusting not only in the middle of the game, but adjusting for games 2 and 3. I know that Wolf is as well, but I feel like Aaron has proven throughout the season that he is better at coming up with sort of like a second game plan, if that makes sense, like a second strategy that also works and works well. So I would give this to Aaron at a rate of like 55-45, 55% leaning towards Aaron winning, 45% towards Wolf winning. That's my breakdown of the match. Those are my opinions and my predictions. I'm sorry if it was a little bit of a jumbled mess, but I actually have 2 special guests who have also sent in analyses, and I really am looking forward to listening to them. The first one is going to be Audie. He's a member of my front office, really smart guy, really glad I brought him on for the season. He's been a massive help to me, and I really, really value his thoughts. The second is a newcomer, and that's Autumn RE. Autumn leaves these really fantastic comments on all of the breakdown videos, sort of breaking down a lot of information. If you go back to the past prediction and post-game analysis videos, you will see just how informative these comments are. So I reached out to her and I said, hey, you seem really good at breaking down these matchups and formulating opinions. Would you like to do that for the finals match? And she agreed. Okay, so we're gonna listen to Audie's thoughts and we're gonna listen to Autumn's thoughts. Please show them some love in the comment section down below. They did not have to go out of their way to get these audio recordings for me, but they did. It means a lot. I want to see whose opinions I agree with and disagree with, like who I align with here. Let's just listen.
Hey everyone, it's Audie again. So the finals is Aaron versus Wolfie. Who could have seen it coming? I'm gonna start by saying that this matchup is probably the hardest for us to analyze. I mean, it's Cybertron versus Wolfie. They're among the best VGC players in the world. and they've both shown throughout the season how comfortable they are with their drafts. Wolfey has brought some insanely unique sets, especially through the playoff bracket, while Aaron has shown an aptness for covering his opponent's counterplay, most evident in his prep against A-Drive with that Iron Ball Primarina. We've talked about CyberTron's draft before. It's top-heavy, but those top-tier mons are excellent. Aaron's biggest threats throughout the season have been his Excadrill and Primarina, taking 21 and 26 KOs each. So does Wolf have counterplayed those mons? Well, yes. For Primarina, Wolf has Jolteon and Rillaboom. Rillaboom is better in this matchup for two reasons, I think. Number one, Primarina has much lower defense than special defense. And number two, Rillaboom holds up much better against Aaron's Sand mode. That being said, Wolf having both mons really makes it harder for Aaron to utilize Primarina in team building. He can't just slap Arindo or Wakanberry on it and call it done. As for Excadrill, Wolf has pretty good counterplay to that as well. First of all, he has Intimidate with Arcanine. Of course, Aaron has super effective Max Quakes, but smart play from Wolfey plus a Sugar Berry could allow Wolfey to intimidate Shuffle handily. And of course, he has Dracovish, and Excadrill does not appreciate a super effective Vicious Friend. That being said, with Weather Control and Prankster Tailwind support, Aaron can often ensure Excadrill moves before Dracovish, either having the power of Vicious Friend or just straight up KOing them on. Speaking of speed control, Wolfey arguably has Aaron beat in that department in one area, that being Trick Room. Aaron has some kind of play to Trick Room. He has two Trick Room setters, Bronzor and Whimsicott, but preventing Trick Room isn't easy in this matchup. And in Trick Room, Wolfey wins the speed war. Escavalier in Trick Room is a big threat for Aaron's team. What are Aaron's answers? Primarina? Escavalier has excellent 105 base special defense and it can bolster that further with an Assault Vest. Second of all, I think it's worth mentioning that Aaron can't even pull off the Iron Ball Primarina trick again. Primarina can't outslow Escavalier even with an Iron Ball. Gigalith? Sure, it has excellent defense, but it's still outslowed by Escavalier and doesn't take max steel specs well at all. Aaron just doesn't have great damage output against Escavalier, and the mons that can hit it super effectively fall like dominoes under Trick Room. I know we've said this before, but here's where I think Aaron's top-heavy draft really catches up with him. Throughout the season, Aaron's been able to predict his opponent's unique counterplay and bring some excellent prep, not to mention his phenomenal play. But Wolfey's draft has a multitude of answers to Aaron's top threats, and that makes team building harder for Aaron this week. But again, this matchup is hard to predict. Sure, I think Wolfey has the matchup, but these are players who've played themselves out of bad matchups for years now. So this is the final verdict. I'm predicting a victory for Wolfey and the DC Dracovish with a 75% confidence rate. But I know that this battle is going to be a masterclass in VGC and Draft Week play, so you can bet I'm excited to watch it. Thanks everyone for listening to my thoughts.
Hello everyone, Anna Marie here. I admit that I'm not the greatest at type matchups when it comes to this stuff, so I'm just going to look at things from the perspectives of the players themselves, and I'll leave the rest to y'all. I think the Wolfey vs. Aaron match is a tough one because they are both really good players. I'd be surprised if it doesn't go to a 3-game set. They both have competitive VGC experience and are both very good at making adjustments Game 2 and Game 3. They know their stats, they know their calcs, and how to minimize RNG risk in their playstyle. We've seen in the playoff matches that Wolfey is a threat when he puts a lot of work into prep, and Aaron has strong team prep skills and willingness to break a bit from the expected norm, as seen in the match against A-Drive. They both also know how to prep with multiple modes and strategies, which can make it easier to adjust and throw off their opponent in Games 2 and 3. Game 1 will be a really important information gathering match, so they will have to be careful of what they show and what they hide. Any hidden tech will need to be flushed out as quickly as possible to prevent too many surprises. Aaron is at a disadvantage in that he had to prep for 2 playoff matches and show more of his potential tricks than Wolfey, who had to prep for only 1 playoff match due to the unfortunate forfeit by Duncan. This being said, there are a few differences between Wolfey and Aaron that come to my mind. From observing them in the WBE, it seems like Aaron is a bit more organized and cautious or careful when he's playing. He tries to take his time to consider a lot of possibilities before he clicks a move. Wolfey seems a bit more all over the place and quicker to click buttons because his thought processes are a bit different, and that's fine as well. But if Wolfey clicks too quickly, he can make mistakes, and this is a matchup that doesn't have a lot of room for error. Similarly, if Aaron thinks too much, he might doubt himself in his play call. If either of them can find a good balance, I think it'll be beneficial for the mental game. Ultimately, I think the draft format will help both players prep, but I think it might help Aaron more in the long run. In their exhibition matches for Panda Global, Aaron battled Wolfey while not knowing Wolfey's team and his own team beforehand, with the exception of one match in which Wolfey used his Jolteon VGC team that Aaron was already familiar with from Road to Ranked. In this match, Aaron used a team built by a different VGC competitor, but it was a team that he was familiar with, and he was able to beat Wolfey in this exhibition match. As we saw in his prep against A-Drive, I think Aaron, knowing Wolfey's team ahead of time, will benefit him a lot more in the preparation stages, and will give him the ability to come up with interesting sets like he did against A-Drive. That being said, however, Wolfey definitely shouldn't be counted out for creativity in this one. It really is a close match here. I would say Aaron wins by a narrow margin if he can keep Wolfey on his toes and save some tricks for the late game.
All right, so once again, massive shout out to Audie and massive shout out to Autumn. Audie does not have social links, or I would plug him like crazy. Autumn actually does have a Twitter, and she streams on Twitch. So those will be linked in the description down below. Definitely go show her some love. These thoughts were really good. So comparing all of our analyses, Audie and I actually agree on a lot of the matchup points. I kind of have convinced myself that Aaron is going to bring really good tech and edge out the win. Audie is convinced, like 75% is a strong bet here. He is convinced that Wolf has this, and if I'm just looking at the teams, I agree. I really think Aaron has some kind of clever things he could do, and I think he's also a little bit better at pivoting in games 2 and 3. Not that either of them are bad. I just think this season he has shown, even though this is Draft League, he's really good at pivoting games 2 and 3. Autumn approaches from a completely different standpoint. She covered the play style of each player, which I think is very smart. And we also agree here. She talked about Wolf making his plays more quickly, which I think is just inherent in Wolf's more aggressive play style. I don't remember what podcast it was, but I think it was actually PokeGame's podcast, the Lock podcast. I think in that podcast, Wolf talked about how he's been trying to train himself to be an aggressive player, because when he plays aggressively, it works out. And I think that also lends to making plays quicker, because not only does making plays quicker sort of like show a little bit more confidence in yourself. Like if you are done making your plays before your opponents are, this also really comes into play when you're playing face to face. It can be intimidating, and it can make your opponents want to play at a pace with you. I think he kind of takes that energy and channels it into his Draft League content as well. So I super kind of agree with that. I think that's a very good analysis. And also we kind of match up here on who we think is going to win because of the playstyle. Because again, Audie's looking at this from a team perspective, which I think Wolf has matchup. I could be wrong. I am not the best at this, but I do think that Wolf has raw matchup in terms of this team of Pokemon versus this team of Pokemon. I think Aaron has shown to be more consistent. So I agree with both of these people. I agree with both of their opinions separately in different ways. We've just all kind of came to slightly different conclusions. So I don't know. This one's going to be interesting. This battle, it's one you don't want to miss. You should be incredibly excited to watch this. It goes live on Sunday. Get hype. Get ready. You already know we'll be doing a post-game analysis of what happens. We're going to be crowning a WBE victor this weekend, and that's exciting. I'm already looking forward to the next season of the WBE. I feel like I've learned a lot this season. I feel like I've learned a lot through analyzing these matchups. I just want to say thank you so much for the support on this series. It is something that I will try to continue more of, even while I'm playing in the regular season. All right, that's the video. That's it. Thank you so much for watching. It means the absolute most. Remember to let me know what you think in the comment section down below. You can analyze my breakdown. You can tell me who you think is going to win. Talk about Audie's predictions. Talk about Autumn's predictions. Let's just have a fun time down there in the comments. Other than that, don't forget the plugs at the beginning of the video. I'm streaming here on YouTube. The streams have been dope. You want to subscribe and turn on notifications for those. And also the t-shirts. The design is absolutely insane. I think a lot of you will love it. Make sure you grab it before it is gone. Other than that, follow me on Twitter. That's how you keep up with my life. There's a Discord link in the description down below. We are trying to revive the Discord server and make some fun stuff happen there. But yeah, my name is Vivid. I'm kind of done here and I have to leave. Once again, thank you so much for all the support. It means the world to me. Okay, bye. Oh, you made it to the end of the video. That's dope. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to see more from me and make it to the end of those videos, there will be a video here and a video here. This one is a video that I think is really good, and this is what YouTube recommends. So you should watch one of them. Okay, thanks.